Thank you, Andrew. Hello, Hong Kong, and welcome to the graveyard session. The session that stands between you and Andrew's recap and free drinks at the Grand Hyatt poolside. Don't worry, we know you are very thirsty. The six of us here on stage are a varied bunch, albeit, I'm sorry, perhaps less diverse than our audience. We come from the Middle East, South Asia, China and Northern Europe. We have some young and some, like me, less young. We represent family companies, privately owned companies, and a large listed company. And just following up Andrew's titles, here's 15 seconds on each of us. Wellington, the boss of Vallis, a famous 100-year-old company, currently with 12 tankers. And as you know, Wellington stands astride the Hong Kong Shipowners Association, or the HKSOA. Angad is the boss, and he says COO, of Caravel, a diversified commodities investment and maritime group that includes Fleet, one of the largest ship managers in the world, and he's the next big cheese at the HKSOA. Lothair is the deputy GM of Hong Kong Ming Shipping, which owns 103 vessels and charters in another 50. He's a former Wah Kwong and Parakou man who is also very active at the Shipowners Association. John is the boss at Wallem, which celebrates its 120th anniversary this year. John's a naval architect, a former ship surveyor, and also former Far East boss of the Cayman Islands Ship Registry. And Asaf, the boss of Portline Group, which is an owner-operator of 25 young Japanese bulkers, mainly Ultramax. He has a string of degrees from London and Israel, and is a member of the Israeli Bar. Your moderator once worked as an executive for Swire, Pacific Basin and Univan, and is now non-executive at Swire, Anglo-Eastern and at the Hong Kong Maritime Museum, where he is considered an ancient relic. Now, we're all here as leaders of ship managers or owners with a few thousand ships between us to worry about. So I'd like to pose our leaders 3 questions. One about sustainability. I pressed the wrong button. The questions are going to pop up. Thank you very much. So I have in advance posed our leaders 3 questions. One about sustainability, one about inspiring people, and one thinking about KC Lam this morning, about elevating Hong Kong. So the questions are, first, what major changes, if any, has your company made so far to prepare for net zero? If none or little, how would you explain that to a teenager? Second, what are the most inspiring words that you, as a leader of your company, might use today to encourage a new young manager to come into and stay in shipping? And third, if you were drafting for the next incoming chairman of the Hong Kong Shipowners Association a 1-minute elevator pitch to persuade owners to relocate to Hong Kong, what would it be? So, we'll take each question in turn and hear the prepared answers from each of our panelists in under 1 minute for each answer. And then I'll ask for 1 or 2 remarks from our audience in case there's something missing before summing up. So let's go. Can we have the next slide? So the first question. the second one first. That's it. Thank you very much. So, gentlemen, starting with Wellington, I think we're going in order here. What major changes, if any, has your company made so far to prepare for net zero? If none or little, how would you explain that to a teenager? Wellington.
I think basically, just like any of us, we all need to make various changes to the fleet because with the regulations coming in force. So what we have been doing in my own company, Valus, we are doing, I mean, especially for the more mature tonnage, we need to do some modification based on the existing technology available in the market. And then obviously the younger tonnage comply to the interim regulations requirements. But obviously, I mean, all these changes that will be paving ways for the ultimate goal of net zero, but that doesn't come very easy because it requires a lot of innovation and technological breakthrough, and it's very resources intensive. So that will take much longer to happen. But I think the message for, if I were to tell a teenager, I want to reiterate that, you know, the ultimate goal of net zero is not only applicable to shipping industry. I mean, we all, as you know, the general public, we all have a part to play in this this formula. And then I think don't underestimate. I mean, everyone should try to do whatever, and don't underestimate all those baby steps in trying to reduce the CO2 emission.
Thank you very much, Wellington. Angad, your turn.
Just checking that the mic's working. I think here in Hong Kong we're not used to doing in-person events. Gonna make sure that this works again. And also it's easier to prepare for virtual events because you can have your remarks there. So it's all practice for all of us. But look, jokes aside, I start by saying that we all of us sitting in this room, I think we have a collective and moral responsibility to the next generation, and that's their next generation, on ensuring that we're leaving the planet in a much better place than unfortunately we've received it. But as Wellington said, it's important to appreciate that shipping is not alone in this path and what we need to achieve, but yet often the spotlight is shone on us on being the polluters or the villains in the industry. But there is so much outside of our control as a ship owner, a ship manager, a classification society, as an overall industry. And so we obviously do the best that we can with the limitations that we have. Notwithstanding that, specifically as I look at our role in the industry, I think as a ship manager, it's really important that we're ahead of the curve in terms of understanding the upcoming regulations that are guiding us towards the path to net zero, and then being able to advise both from a technical perspective, a operational perspective, but also a commercial perspective on how to comply with these regulations. We then have to take the next step of really trying to understand what the path is or the need for dual-fueled vessels as an interim solution to the path to net zero. And again, our expertise then in supporting owners and yards from an operational standpoint on this becomes critically important. And then third, it's really about exploring with a lot of other partners on the feasibility of future fuels. And I think that really needs to be done as a partnership versus any single one company doing that alone. And I think, as an organization, hopefully by the end of this week, you'll hear that we've entered into an MOU with several other partners whereby we will be establishing a competitive supply chain in the establishment of green ammonia ship-to-ship bunkering at a very large port. And that is with a host of different participants in the industry, and I think that's the only way that we can achieve net zero.
Thank you, Angad. John.
Thank you. I think it's quite similar as well. I mean, we're a maritime services company, so it's a little bit similar to what Angad said as well. But we don't make the decisions, we're not actually investing in the ships and I take steps in that way, but what we do is investing in research and investing in training. Our team, our shore-based team, are spending time, efforts, and money as well, basically, all investing in research of alternative fuels, of the decarbonisation, how we can then best support and be a partner with the ship owners, with the charterers, etc., on achieving the decarbonisation goals and the decarbonisation targets that's being set for the industry. At the same time, we are also training the crew, all the seafarers, giving them the tools so that they can go on board the new vessels, take advantage of new technologies, being able to actually operate with the new alternative fuel systems, but also to change their mindset a bit with seeing that it's a commercial value to the ship owners and to the industry as a whole to make sure that the vessels are operated as energy efficient as possible. At the same time as ship management, we also have a big footprint in Asia on the port services, the port agency side of the business, where we are looking at being able to offer carbon neutral type of port services to vessels in port. Cruise industry, for cargo industry, etc., to actually give that option, be able to have a carbon neutral, as carbon neutral as possible for business.
Thank you very much, John. Lothair.
Thank you, Richard. Net zero is challenging for shipping, but not only for shipping. As other speakers say, this is a global target. Recently, we are working with all related parties to find a way to address this challenge. Last week, our company we meet with some steel producing groups in China to discuss how to respond to this challenge. At present, we are focusing on methanol fuel and working with some local shipyard in China on the new building designs. We are also paying attention to some other green fuels such as ammonia fuel, but they are currently low main engine for ammonia. So we are in the process of evaluating the best strategies and technologies to achieve this net zero target. But the most important thing is for all companies, not only for shipping, but for all sectors, to take action to address this climate change and work towards a sustainable future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lothair. Asaf.
Yes, thank you, and hi, great to be here. We started discussing this subject quite a few years ago, and decided it does take a multi-angle action to start the process. We first realized we needed to embark on a fleet renewal, so we decided to modernize our vessels, and we sold our older tonnage and went and ordered new buildings that are today at least the stepping stone towards the goals that we want to achieve are 30% more efficient than some of our existing tonnage. On those existing ships, we did the modifications that were also mentioned here, both to the vessels themselves, both optimizing the trades and what we can do to bring as much efficiency gains as we can on some of these existing ships. These are steps towards some of these alternative fuels that we're all looking at. These are things, we in 2020 established an investment arm. One of the goals and mandates is to look at investments in the green space. Unfortunately, these alternative fuels don't bring us to where we want to be at this stage. There's a lot of talk about methanol, which we also identified as probably the appropriate fuel, at least for small to medium ship owners. We will need to see more heavy carbon tax to bring this as a more attractive notion for ship owners to go out and acquire and order such vessels. But in the meantime, such such a investment arm allows us both to study and research and understand with the resources that we have what will be required from a ship owner operator in the future. And of course, we invested also, you know, people don't talk about this so much, but in the talent to be able to execute some of these strategies. So those are the kind of things that we're doing these days. And of course, this is only one step, and there's still quite a few more steps to go before we can reach net zero.
Thank you very much, Asaf. So, audience, you've heard the answers from the panel. Is there anything important missing? Benny, you're looking shifty. Maybe you've got an answer. Olivia, any questions? Usually you have a question, but perhaps not today. Obviously not. So the panel covered it fantastically, did they? I thought the answers to the teenager were a bit sketchy. Wellington led, Angad followed a bit, but teenagers ran out after that, so teenagers are all happy. Good, well the teenagers are happy and the audience is happy. So I think with that, you know, I would sort of summarise. I beg your pardon. Olivia, thank you. Thank you, Wellington. Thank you.
Hi, thanks everyone. Just a quick question. I'm interested to know the panel's views. It's an open question. There's no solution, no answer, I guess. But the question about a teenager and what would explain to a teenager. Do you think a teenager would understand the nuances of the shipping industry and the fact of, you know, net zero, and then perhaps the arguments that we've heard through the day and, you know, generally in the industry at the moment is that so there's not necessarily a clear-cut answer. Being a first mover is not always an advantage, and our journey to you know, zero through net zero is a complicated one because the technology solutions aren't there. Do you think a teenager understands that? If the shipping industry says, oh, we're not decarbonising at the rate we should be at this stage because technology is letting us down and the fuel industry is letting us down. I'm just interested to hear the panelists' views on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Olivia. I think it's an excellent question. I think the default answer is the teenager won't have a clue. But if any of the panel disagrees, please shout. I think it's Angad.
I'm laughing a little bit because before the mics were turned off, I was joking to Richard that I don't think any of us here actually know how to communicate to teenagers anymore. I don't think we can communicate in, you know, short format videos and emojis. But notwithstanding that, I was at actually a City University employers luncheon yesterday, and so a little bit older than teenagers. But you're hearing some of these presentations and projects that students are working on age 18, 19, 20. I appreciate a little bit older than teenagers. And you'd be surprised at just how advanced their understanding of the issues that the planet is facing and how important it is to them today on tackling these challenges in the way they look at technology, digitalization, robotics, giving back to the community. So it wouldn't surprise me if, you know, teenagers at least had a decent understanding, more than the superficial, of what's happening. Because I think at a very early age, they're just being taught today at schools to, you know, appreciate the planet, climate change, and those areas. And Olivia, and, you know, we have young children, and our young children, they're hearing already about climate change and pollution and all of those things. So it wouldn't surprise me if a teenager understands a lot more than we're giving them credit for today.
Richard?
And
This is just to add on to what Angad was mentioning. I think the teenagers today are pretty much aware of what's happening in the world. You know, in school levels, they are very much aware of the Sustainable Development Goals of UN. Pretty simply, they just ask, okay, this is what you are. Which of these goals are you mapping yourself with? It's very easy for them to today ask that question. So any new project, any innovation, which of these SDGs are you aligning yourself with? So I would think that the teenagers today are quite advanced, and in fact, they see the macro picture. You know, being in shipping, we are looking at probably a very few of the solutions. Recently, I was talking to someone, one of the technology institutes in India, they have something like 1,100 startups. So, just one institute having 1,100 startups, all for some of these solutions. Therefore, my son, he's quite active with this MUN, Model United Nations. He practically knows what I deal with in shipping. He knows everything about what's happening in shipping. So they look at it from a very macro level. So if shipping has to really be seen as attractive or impressive, I think we need to look at the similar level as the teenager.
Thank you very much, NR. I think we'll move on to the next question, Andrew. I'd just like to say that the Hong Kong Maritime Museum is currently working on a project to try to explain to teenagers what decarbonisation in shipping is all about. We're working with a company that's made a series of major investments in this area. And where we start is how to make this subject interesting. I mean, it's interesting perhaps to engineers and perhaps to chemists and so on, but how to make it interesting to a young audience. So I think it's a very live question. Second question. So you've got a bunch of leaders here who are not very good at managing their time. Please limit your responses to 1 minute each, otherwise I'll be fired as a moderator. What are the most inspiring words that you, as a leader of your company, might use today to encourage a new young manager to come into and stay in shipping? So I think we'll go in reverse order this time. So lucky you, Asaf, your minute starts now.
I'd go about it maybe in a different way, and I'd say if you are a young leader or young manager and you like a comfortable lifestyle that that is static and not having so many changes and very comfortable, shipping is probably not the sector for you. And we're dealing with an extremely dynamic landscape, changing from regulations and macroeconomic developments, geopolitics, weather, and whoever's been even a short amount of time in shipping has dealt with multiple various scenarios. And I think that's, at least for me personally, and I assume for quite many people who are in this room, this is one of the great things that you can get out of and enjoy in shipping.
Excellent, Asaf. Thank you very much. Lothair.
Thank you, Richard. I would tell the young guys, shipping is a dynamic and ever-changing industry that play a crucial role in the global economy, and their work will directly impact the life of people around the world. It is very meaningful to deal with people around different countries. For example, in each ship we have a cool team about 20 people and connect country through cargo transportation. For young managers, they are the key figures. They bring fresh perspective and innovative ideas that can help shape the future for our industry. While the challenge of shipping are many, the rewards are equally great, both personally and professionally. So I will encourage the young managers to embrace this opportunity, take on the new challenge, and be a leader in shaping this future of the shipping industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Lothair. John.
Thank you. It will probably take me a little bit more than 1 minute, but for here now, it would be to sit down and talk with them about what shipping is basically, what we are doing. We are, the key wheel in keeping the economy of the world going. And then at the same time as well, I think it's the best industry in the world. It's an addictive industry. If you join shipping, it's almost impossible to get out of it, I think. Even if you wanted to for some time, then you just can't get away from it. It's an addictive industry. And for the next 20 or 25 years, it's going to be the most interesting time of this industry as well with trying to achieve the net zero. So, yeah, I would fully recommend them to join shipping and bring their young talent in.
Thank you, John. So come and join us addicts in this room. Angad.
So I would say come to the industry if you believe that the work you do needs to have an impact. Every day, whatever action you take in this industry has an impact. It has an impact on someone and something. The economy, someone's life, feeding someone, powering the economy. And I smirked a little bit at this question because I felt it was a little bit aimed at me as a guy who kind of didn't know what a bulk carrier was at the front of a ship or iron ore kind of being thrust into this. And I agree with John. I'm an addict. I'm hooked, right? There's kind of, it's an amazing industry that allows a young person today to, irrespective of what they've learned, law, finance, engineering, chemistry, that they can apply their educational degree into some aspect of shipping. You're a finance whiz, go ahead and trade FFAs like you would trade, equity derivatives. You're a engineer, go into ship management and help try and solve the net zero problem. You're a data scientist, there are so many questions there to be answered on running ships, managing ships, and even just forecasting freight rates and everything connected with that. So the entire world is your oyster to do what you feel, irrespective of what educational background you've come from. And I think that's truly special about the industry that very few industries can offer.
Thank you, Angad. Wellington.
My question to you, Richard, define young. I think it's all relative. I mean, basically, I do agree with Angad and John. I mean, the phrase that comes to my mind is, I always say shipping is mesmerizing. I mean, it's not easy to be in shipping. We face a lot of challenges and a lot of frustrations. Actually, most of the time is frustrations. But I think at the same time, when things work out right, and I think it's just truly rewarding. And you just kind of, once you enter the industry, you just stay in it. So I think for the younger people who are considering to enter the industry, I think they need to really understand the industry first, and then they really believe in what they're doing. I think that's very important. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much indeed, panelists. I think that's wonderful. Audience, have the panel inspired you, assuming you had a child that was thinking of coming to shipping? Is that enough? Has anyone got any other points they'd like to raise? Benny, here he is.
I think all the panelists here have a very inspiring word for the young people. I think the key word I would use actually is international. There's no other work in the world that is more international than shipping. Whatever happened in this beautiful world are relating to our industry. Is there war there? Is there a tsunami there? Whatever it is. I mean, is there earthquake? If there's whatever happens, that will influence our market. So this is the most international work you can ever dream of. I'm addicted.
Thank you very much, Benny. Any other points? Amit?
And I think quite interesting how I do it. I tell them that, we move the world. If we stop, world is stopped. So you are working for a company with so much of power. And which is true, right? We move 95% of the goods. If we stop, the world will stop, right? That's why I try to motivate my people.
Thank you, Amit. Anyone else? Great, everyone's joining. Fantastic, everyone wants to come into shipping, they're all addicted. I had a go at this one. I think I sort of overlap one or two of the points. Shipping carries 90% of world trade, without which humanity would be immeasurably poorer. Shipping teaches you more about geopolitics, economics, geography, and weather, history, art, and science than perhaps any other industry. Make you a fortune in shipping. Sure, we'll do that. Right, Andrew, can we have the third? Excellent, okay. Well, Angad thought that the second question was aimed at him, so I don't know what he thinks about this one, because there's a rumour going around that he's potentially in line to be the next chairman of the Hong Kong Shipowners, if he plays his cards right, which is obviously an open question. But if you were drafting for Angad, a 1-minute elevator pitch, and Angad drafting for himself, to persuade owners to relocate to Hong Kong. I don't know if Mr. Lamb is still here. Is Casey there somewhere? Okay. Casey, I hope you also didn't scribble down some notes here, because this is really for you as well as Angad. What would that pitch be? So Asaf, you've got. I'll just waffle on for about 5 seconds to get you ready. We'll also go in reverse order and finish with the current Shipowners chairman. So Asaf, you'd like to kick off? 1 minute each, please.
Sure. So I mean, I may be biased as well. I grew up in Hong Kong, and I think generally speaking, not even to do with shipping, it's a great place to do business, and it's got a very good regime in terms of tax and in terms of confidence in the markets. When we look at shipping, and I'm not sure if this example has been given before, but you could probably have if there's any joggers or runners in here, you could probably do a 5-kilometer run from one of the offices of our shipping companies and meet in this 5-kilometer jog probably all the shipping or maritime service providers that you need in order to own, operate, manage, register, finance, insure your vessel, and this is all in a 5-kilometer radius. I think that says a lot about this place that's Hong Kong and the shipping hub that it is, and with a long tradition of ship owners that are a lot of the times doing what they do under the radar in a low-profile way, but continuing to kind of excel and be around. So I think, it's a great place to be, and will continue to be this way.
Thank you, Asaf. Lothair.
Okay, thanks, Richard. Hong Kong has a strategic location as an important link of China, Southeast Asia, and the world. Hong Kong has a well-established shipping industry, offer a comprehensive range of high-value-added maritime service supported by a highly skilled and experienced workforce. So Hong Kong as a global financial center and one of the wealthiest economies, Hong Kong offers stable and predictable regulatory environment with low tax and minimal bureaucracy. So most importantly, Hong Kong has a pool of talent, and they are professional, efficient, and hardworking. They are open to new ideas and adaptable, who is important to this ever-changing industry. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Lothair. John.
Thank you. I would highlight that it's a very good tax-efficient jurisdiction. It is a very central maritime hub in Asia, with location with mainland China. I think there's no better place if you want to do business with China, with the Chinese ship owners, etc. There's no better place than Hong Kong. In addition to that, it's an absolutely wonderful city to live in. It's the best city I've ever lived in throughout my life, and you can explore new places, new areas every single day, and also extremely welcoming and nice people.
Thank you, John. Angad.
So I think everything's been said, so I'll say what's not been said, especially this week. The rugby sevens, Lang Kwai Fong, Young Cha, and the hiking. But look, jokes aside, the most important thing for any maritime center is that there needs to be an ecosystem. And an ecosystem can only be created when you have the amalgamation of a strong regulatory framework. It's been discussed, we have that here. Commercial incentives, we have them here. Perhaps now with the new commercial principal tax regime in Hong Kong, it is the best environment for commercial principals to thrive from a tax regime perspective. Macroeconomics. This part of the world, in my opinion, can be debated, will be the engine for future growth of global GDP growth. And I think China will continue to lead the world in that. And the proximity to China, but the rest of Asia, I think continues to be an important part of the maritime industry, just given the nature of our business. Number 4, talent. Hong Kong has a very deep pool of local talent, expatriate talent across all aspects of the marine industry, from services to insurance, to finance, to engineers, and we also have a very accommodating immigration regime that allows us to bring in talent where a lot of other people don't have that possibility. And I think, you know, the last part I would say is the broader GBA impact that would bring to shipping, and the importance of, we've talked about it a lot, digitization. And I think when you have Shenzhen, Hong Kong connectivity in terms of what's possible on the hardware side and the software side about the future of where this industry is going, I genuinely believe Hong Kong is the only place in the world that has the combination of everything that I've talked about all in one place. The last thing I will say, and Richard, I know I'm ahead of time, is I think sometimes we as an industry do ourselves a bit of a disservice, especially in Hong Kong, because there's just so much focus, and I, with due respect to anyone in the audience from the containerized shipping industry, but our focus so much is on the port, Huaisheng, as that's maritime, that's Hong Kong maritime. Actually, it really, while it's a very important part of our history and what brought us here, today, as we look at where this industry goes forward, it's about creating of a maritime services center, international finance shipping center, and that's where we need to collectively get our messaging right. So apologies, Richard, I've used over the minute, but I thought that last part was worth mentioning.
I think, is time's up yet, right? Well, I think the panelists, they have all covered about, you know, the good, you know, the pros of having an office in Hong Kong, so I would not repeat that. But I think one of the issues, you know, I think we should also admit that the common comment about, you know, Hong Kong is that the standard of living is not cheap. I mean, that is a fact, so I'm not going to deny that. But I want to also comment that if you were to look at other major shipping cities around the world, I mean, the rest are all equally cheap, or if not, they're really catching up to Hong Kong. So I think you should not really, I mean that at the end of the day, when you look at the place, if you were to consider having office or moving an office to, you need to see where you have, which place can check most of the boxes in your wish list. I mean, you just have a holistic approach and look at it. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, panelists. Very much appreciated. Now, audience, any points that are missed? KC, did we tick your boxes? Have you got anything to add to what we said? KC was not prepped for this one.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you very much, Richard, for posing this question and getting an arsenal of answers for me in preparation for my next meetings. I would probably add just one thing. I think opportunity. You mentioned GBA and so on. I think we sort of walked around the central theme. I think I'd like to put my finger on as opportunity. Nobody really wants a cheap place if it has no opportunity. We want to capture opportunity, we want to do business, we want to transact. If we can do that in a way that's more efficient, less painful and so on, so much better. Hong Kong happens to offer the opportunities and a whole bunch of other goodies as well. And I really, really appreciate the point about the ecosystem, the depth of the professionals that we have in Hong Kong. I would also add that the legal profession is incredibly strong in Hong Kong. I mentioned the point about the common law system here, and like it or not, you know, the Anglo-Saxon world dominates shipping, and the legal system is underwritten by that system. So it's something that Hong Kong enjoys, Hong Kong's good at, and people who want to litigate, arbitrate, and so on can do that very effectively here. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, KC. Anyone, any counter views? Sorry, Olivia, please. run, Andrew.
Sorry, no account of you. I'm a very strong proponent of Hong Kong, so you're not going to hear an argument from me. I'm more interested, one thing the panel didn't mention, which I thought was quite interesting, is Hong Kong as a listing venue. We have one of the strongest stock exchanges in Asia and, leading IPO market. Do you think that Hong Kong is a good place to list a shipping company?
Half a question. So, Angad, former KKR man, by the way, so off you go.
Leo, it's a great question. I will caveat my answer because I continue to believe Hong Kong is one of the most important listing venues, and the depth of the capital markets here, I think, is unparalleled. And I think we've got a great variety of companies that are listed in Hong Kong, from old economy, new economy, consumer, cyclical, China-based business, ASEAN businesses, family businesses, global businesses, dual share businesses, secondary listings. All of that, I think, is amazing for the capital markets here in Hong Kong, which is what has allowed the financial services sector to thrive. In Hong Kong, you continue to have some global household brands in shipping, whether that's Costco or China Merchants or Pacific Basin, all listed in Hong Kong for a variety of different reasons. And you've also seen the US become an important venue for some of the dry bulk listed companies. London's got some other companies. And what I struggle a little bit with is, I think the global equity market investors don't necessarily have the ability to invest in a counter-cyclical way in listed shipping companies because of the need to show performance quarter to quarter, share price appreciations quarter to quarter, and the fact that when they say, oh, BDI is up, why isn't this listed shipping company up? And so I think an issue is not necessarily the exchange, it's, I think, an issue with a lot of the institutional investor base in how they understand shipping, look at shipping. A ship owner buying a ship is looking at it very, very differently to an equity investor looking at buying the shares of that listed company and what they're trying to achieve by either buying a share or buying a ship. And I think we as an industry, therefore, need to do a better job educating global investors on investing in listed shipping companies as a sector that is a bigger issue than Hong Kong being the preferred or not preferred choices listing venue.
Thank you very much, Angad. Excellent answer. Any other points anyone would like to raise? Tabitha.
Sorry, can I, this question or comment sort of relates to the previous question around talent and attracting new younger talent to the shipping industry. We know that with the next generation of employees, a lot of them are looking for more than just a salary. It's about the actual sort of work experience as a whole. So flexible working, remote working, the lifestyle it offers, the company culture. I just wanted to know if you as companies or employers are adjusting your sort of company policies to attract the new talent. Are you finding this an issue? Because I guess in some shipping jobs they don't necessarily lend themselves to sort of 9 to 5 or flexible remote working. So just wanted to hear some views there.
Anyone like to take that? John?
Thank you. Yeah, definitely. I think you know, going through the pandemic gave us a kind of a kickstart on it, but it's something that we've introduced across our various offices as well. Surprisingly, actually in Hong Kong, there's not many asking for it to be able to work remotely, work from home. But whenever it comes up, then we try to accommodate for that, and we definitely do it across in our other locations across the world. That's one step, I think, and then it's about trying to look at some of the other ways where we can find good solutions for them to get better work-life quality as well. And I think as an industry, we do have quite a few steps to take to match some of the other industries that we see globally.
Lothair, are you going to add to that?
So, just a small point. Yeah, I think the pandemic has definitely taught us all to adapt, and you know, we have a big office in Lisbon, in Portugal, where we do our ship management, some of our commercial activities, and you know, very quickly we acquired laptops for everyone. And while I think most of us can agree here that there's a big importance to continue to going into the office and to be physically meeting with each other. I think that flexibility when whether it's people that have families or just generally speaking don't have to you know, be on to that 9 to not 5 but 6, 7, 8 hours, and if they have some things that they can do at home and be flexible about it, I think it's important to do that. And having younger managers and leaders in an organization who can empathize with the other employees is very important. So I think it does start from the managerial hierarchy and trickles down, and I think most companies are adapting to that.
Thank you very much, Asaf. Any other points in relation to any of the questions that were posed? Good. I think everyone's very thirsty, Andrew, so we'll pass to your recap. But thank you very much indeed to the panelists for their very wise words today, and thank you very much indeed for an enthusiastic audience. Thank you.